hopefully that are safe. But now I want to talk to a freelance journalist, Seamus Kearney, who was there from the moment that the fire first started burning in Notre Dame Cathedral. He joins us live from Paris. Just talk us through, I know it's been an incredibly emotional day, a very historic day. Talk us through what you saw from the very beginning, would you, Seamus?
Yes, I can tell you, absolute shock still here tonight. It's more than 5 hours after that blaze broke out, and still thousands of people gathered around the Ile de la Cité, just absolute disbelief at what they're looking at. Notre Dame, just the two towers standing and the facades, but really this enormous damage that we're likely to only really understand tomorrow. What kind of damage? Is it totally gutted, for example, inside? I was actually in a cafe just nearby when the first alerts were sounded. We just saw small puffs of smoke actually rising from the top of Notre Dame. And I actually spoke to one family who'd just been inside the cathedral. They were there right up until the closing time, but today the cathedral closed early, 6:45. We understand the blaze broke out shortly after that. And I actually looked at some of the photographs taken by that family from the U.S., and they had a whole series of photographs, and we saw that there was just the splendor of the cathedral, the normal tourist photograph. And then about 5 or 6 photographs later, you can see the small puff of smoke rising. They actually thought it was the construction work that was underway, because the smoke was very close to the scaffolding, very close to the part of the roof where the construction work is taking place. And it was amazing. We actually started to move towards the cathedral. There were big crowds moving towards the cathedral, and I can actually tell you that there were just as many people rushing away from the cathedral, many people concerned that this may have been some kind of attack. Of course, Paris still on a high level of security alert, but people moved towards the cathedral, and those flames just absolutely took off so quickly. And even an hour after the blaze began, there were just no signs of firefighter hoses. It just seemed like the fire was just totally out of control. It moved so quickly, and it spread up that spire so fast, and there was real concern that it was going to fall onto some of the historic nearby buildings. In the end, after about 20 minutes after the fire first took hold, the spire fell right into the middle of the cathedral, and that's why I think the damage inside is going to be quite significant.
Seamus, when we look at the images, the intensity of the fire is absolutely staggering. Right now, just to brief our viewers, we believe there is still a small fire within the building, but most of it has been contained, and from our understanding is the worst has been avoided, so the structure of the building is in theory okay. But when we look at what happened earlier on today, the intensity of the fire is really, really worrying.
That's right, and the flames were just shooting up so high. I took some photographs and shared those, and people were just staggered to see those. You're right, I'm actually standing right in front of the cathedral, just across the River Seine, and I can tell you that there are still flickers of flames from within. There are still firefighters with the mechanical aerial ladders trying to put out those flames. One thing that was very interesting when the fire was taking hold, when it was really at its height, was that people were screaming out, saying, "Where are the helicopters? Where are the aerial ladders?" And this was an hour after the blaze first started. Some people were trying to say, look, it'll be impossible for the firefighters to get so close. The access, the very small streets, a lot of tourists in that area as well. And firefighters tonight have been saying that it was very difficult, that there were a lot of dangers. There were dangers to surrounding buildings. But people, they were screaming out, "Where are the helicopters?" And that was just absolutely astonishing, just total disbelief. And we do hear tonight from the French authorities saying that, yes, the structure has been saved. We still see the two towers there standing. We see the stone facades. But I have heard some experts who were interviewed around me saying that, it's only going to really be in the next week or two when tests are carried out to see whether or not that historic facade, whether the stonework has been damaged, whether or not it's going to be too fragile to even think about rebuilding. But tonight we've heard from the French president saying that, total catastrophe has been avoided. He's pledging there will be a rebuild. And just looking at all of these people around here tonight, it's after midnight, tens of thousands still gathered here in silence, just looking at this empty skyline here across the River Seine.
Seamus, let's take advantage of the fact that you were there from the very beginning. We believe that the works of art, the religious icons, the countless artefacts that are within the cathedral, that they were taken out. Did you see any of that, that process?
No, but I actually spoke to an official who came across from the cathedral to be interviewed by television stations. He did confirm that some artifacts had been taken out. Now, we don't know at what stage, whether it was by firefighters or by people who worked in the cathedral. But as I say, it was closing early tonight, and that may have been very, very lucky indeed, because the tourists were already on their way out, and perhaps they managed to get to a lot of those artifacts. I know that this official I heard talking in French, he was talking about a crown that had been saved. I'm not quite sure which crown he was referring to, but we do know that a lot of the very precious artwork is just absolutely massive, huge paintings. It's impossible to imagine that all of the artifacts and all of the treasures will have been saved. And people here, are talking about visiting the cathedral today, looking at a lot of that artwork, and just really this anxiety now, just to know what's going to be, what are we going to find tomorrow once the firefighters have managed to totally put out the flames. Going inside, we understand that the roof collapsed, the spire fell right inside the cathedral, but does that mean that the actual stone ceiling inside the cathedral, has that collapsed as well? And that's a question that's unanswered at the moment. Experts will go in either later tonight or tomorrow morning, and we should hear more about that.
Seamus Kearney, who has been watching these events from 5 hours ago when this fire first started. Thank you so much for sharing what you saw, because of course, as Seamus was saying there, water is still being poured on from the live images that we're seeing of the cathedral. I wonder if we can have a look at those now. The blaze does seem to have been, compared to what was going on earlier on today, it does seem to have been completely taken under control, but the water, as you can see, the cannons are still pouring water on that. The crown of thorns that Seamus was speaking about is believed to be the wreath that was placed on the head of Jesus Christ before he was crucified. So for the Christian community, the artifacts within this cathedral are absolutely just so important, especially because we are at the moment in Holy Week just before Easter. So the poignancy of the timing of this terrible event is not lost on the religious community, France being devoutly many Catholics within the country, so devastating for them. We will be speaking a little bit later on to a professor of historical theology, because there are so many, as Seamus was saying, so many artifacts within the cathedral that hopefully many of them would have been saved, but it's impossible to say when you look at the absolute devastation. Live pictures right now, local time, just after midnight, and as Seamus was saying, people still outside looking at Notre Dame Cathedral, speechless, absolutely speechless, given that this is an 850-year-old building, survived 2 world wars, was damaged in the French Revolution. What this building has seen is absolutely extraordinary. To see it like this,